it's the fire act.
Oh my God, it's firehouse.
Hey, my phone didn't go off.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, the data that they have on
I
it.
know. Yeah, we put out there.
Didn't take long with the cake.
Call the meeting to order at 1:30. Do a roll call. I'm Paul Lamb, the current mayor.
Gus Walter, city council member.
David Kelly, city manager.
Chris Parker, chief, please.
Susie Holmes, finance director.
Thank you. And the assistant city manager is absent due to medical.
Perfect. Public comments. The public may speak on any item not listed on the agenda at this time. Bob, do you have anything?
Yeah, just, first of all, thanks for your time, and, I think, first of all, I like the idea of the town hall meeting. That was a great thing to do. The only comment I would have is the council or the city planning a second one, only because that meeting was a couple of hours. There was a couple hours before city council meeting, so it would be good to have a second meeting, I think, for folks to digest it. Because I know a few people left before we got to the town hall, because it took a while for that to happen. And also I'm concerned that overall the council is on the record of trying to lower the voter threshold, right, from 2/3 to 55%. And I'd like, you went on record, a letter went out to our state leadership that the city supported that. And I was surprised, and second, I'd like to see that kind of thing rescinded. I think we should rely on the voters to approve taxes, not lower thresholds to make it easier. Also, citizens are encouraged to, pay as they go. They live, within their means, and so I'm still concerned about this multi-million-dollar loan with a $2 million interest payment. If there is no prepayment penalty, I'd love to see that paid off, and again, we live within our means, with the amount of take. And I also, it was interesting at the last city council meeting, there was a lot of discussion banning about the scoreboard. I was surprised at how much energy there was in the city council about doing a scoreboard. And I would advocate that the city look at a corporate sponsor or local sponsors to, fund that kind of thing. And to me, that's a nice to do out of general funds. I think we can get sponsors to do that kind of thing. And that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. Do you have anything, Daniel? All right. Hey. Okay, move on. Approval of minutes for, I probably do both. D1 and D2, April 1st and June 3rd. Motion for the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All right, anyone against, any opposed? Seeing none. Move into new business, the discussion of the 911 system.
Thank you, Mayor. This item was added at your request. Just a little context to it. Our dispatch is managed through our Cloverdale Police Department under the direction of our police chief. We are responsible for taking 911 calls from the public. There is a non-emergency line that's 894-2150 that's available for general police matters. What we've found is that in certain instances, when due to emergency, 911 is called by members of our community, more and more members of our community have cell phones that due to the location services or the cell tower or the cell service providers internal procedures, those calls can be routed outside of our local dispatch to other dispatchers, including the CHP in some cases, or California Highway Patrol, or the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office. And our chief actually performed a test using 3 of the different mobile system providers, Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. And Chief, you want to kind of take from there in terms of what you found?
Yeah, so I'm calling from the mobile Verizon phone in dispatch, our dispatcher. I got the sheriff's office. Calling from AT&T and T-Mobile, we got CHP. It will populate, if you're calling, wherever you're calling from, it will populate on our dispatcher screen of where you're at, your GPS location is. If the call is routed to those other agencies, and then they forward it back down to them. And with CHP, I got the answering service because they were too busy.
Where is, the, CHP?
San Francisco
Is it in San Francisco?
is somewhere over there. I'm not sure the exact location, but it's San Francisco somewhere.
And what do you mean when you say we can see it? But
Yeah, so we have
is there,
it's a computer, we have a monitor just for that.
uh,
It's text 911, it's rapid deploy. So if anybody calls 911, the GPS location, it will pop up on our screen as someone calling from 911 and give their location.
we can intercept the call at that point in time?
No.
No, so when CHP routes it to Cloverdale, it'll show them on the screen. But before that, the 10-minute time frame that it takes for them to get it routed, or 5 minutes, it's a lot going on.
Is there anything underway to maybe make some corrections on?
Verizon is having an issue with their PSAP system, which routes the phone call to the local jurisdiction. They've been testing it, last week they called us several times testing their system, they still can't figure it out why. It's not doing that, but they're working. T-Mobile and AT&T couldn't answer that.
How long were you on hold when you had to wait?
I don't know. And then they called back, you called 911, I'm gonna put you on hold. So, yeah, I don't know what the answer is to that, but, if you call 911, we will get your location. If you call our 895-894-2150, you're gonna get our dispatch directly. But your GPS location is not gonna pop up.
So what if,
So if someone calls for a medical service, they call our department. We do have Redcom who does, who will give instructions on CPR, they go over the phone, if someone's injured. So sometimes we transfer people to Redcom when it's just like an ambulatory medical aid type thing. And they either provide services right away. They have the skills to do that over the phone while the ambulance is around to help them. So, and we just started that last year. So,
Chief, is that only cell phones?
yes, we're on our cell phones.
So if you have a
Landlines and everything.
yeah, when we rebuilt here, we weren't allowed to have one.
Oh, really? Yeah.
well, they're trying to get rid of it now, so. as well.
So
Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
they wouldn't run the copper. They wouldn't, AT&T refused to run the copper.
Oh.
We rebuilt off of Cherry Creek Road, a place called Cherry Creek Road. So none of those homes were allowed to have copper, so we have to use the cell phone. So are you saying just don't call 911 in our case, call your dispatch?
I wouldn't say never call 911, but, if you want our dispatch, 894-2150. Sorry.
And that's for medical, any.
And you'll get right to us, and there's really no wait.
So I wonder how many other people in Cloverdale may not have one.
Most.
Most of them.
Okay.
And this was the whole point of it, is I had the 2 instances that happened and it drug way out. So I wanted to get something out to the public. If there was something that we could say, if you're in Cloverdale, you know what's going on, here's a secondary number if you have the ability to remember and do it this way versus 911. Always call 911, never say that, don't. However, I called 2150 the first time afterwards and instant.
Yeah.
These people were here, it was 10 minutes, they've been on hold with a stranger. And I don't know if it was Redcom or CHP, the guy's asking when the person down had a seizure the last time. And they're like, I'm not even from this town. There's a guy freaking out in the streets. What do we do here? And the guy's like, I need you to answer my questions. When was the last time he had a seizure? And I'm like,
Yeah, that's probably.
hang up the phone.
Right.
So, it was scary to me that they'd been on the phone 10 minutes and hadn't got anything rolling yet.
But one complaint that I had going back a couple of months ago was that they got, they called 911 and highway patrol incident. But they didn't know where Cloverdale was when she said, I'm in Cloverdale. Didn't know where that was.
Yeah, sometimes they transfer them to Clovis, thinking Cloverdale.
Yeah.
Which is happened sometimes, right? It's kind of weird.
Well, and that was maybe part of the messaging is what town you're in,
Give me a zip code or something.
and whether it's medical or physical emergency, you know. So I don't, that's kind of, I mean, my thought, chief, this is this is your.
Would you like to get, like, put something out in that type of
I think
way?
this is weekly newsletter. I was thinking maybe
Okay.
you could have something that gave just a little bit of information.
Yeah.
You know, if it can speed it up for one person to save a life, we did our job.
Maybe so.
Well, Chief, are we the only city that has this problem?
No.
Is there anything that the chiefs in Sonoma County are doing in their association to look into this?
No, but I can ask them. They may be doing it on their own, but we haven't, it has not come up for discussion.
Be interested to see how everyone else is getting around this and getting the word out there without causing a panic. Like, God, we don't have 911. I mean, that's a lot of people. That's pretty important.
You know, I was thinking about it back when chief was just a cop. It would triangulate off of the cell towers and send it to where you were. And if you were three cell towers in Cloverdale, send it to Cloverdale. If you're on the freeway, it would send it to the CHP, that type of thing. I'm wondering if they're using satellites for cell tower instead of cell towers for 911 calls now. And that's what's screwing it up. I have no idea. I'm just thinking out loud because you can call 911 when you don't have cell service. And it goes through. So I don't know, just I'm just trying to figure out where the heck the problem went wrong with it. 90s was better than now.
Well, should we keep this on the agenda to follow?
Yeah. It'd be nice to hear. Please, chief, we're all in this together. So.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing the testing and stuff and getting the information.
Yep.
Why it's not just us.
Mayor,
Yeah,
I don't chime in as often, but I was looking at what some of the other cities do. I noticed that the town of Sonoma, for example, and I'm not necessarily suggesting this, I'm just letting you know that they have a section on their page kind of telling the public, just in one of their FAQ sections, what happens when they call 911. And it kind of says the same information, but we could add something like that to our site if you'd like.
great. Maybe forward that to Chief David and council and let people kind of look over or whoever you think this committee at least and see. Thanks, Mike.
I just like to be transparent with information online if we can.
Anything, you guys?
And we'll move this to standing item under police.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be every month. If there's nothing new, we can.
Isn't there like a 911 fee we pay on our phone bills? There's some kind of charge, so we should be getting the service from AT&T or whomever.
Oh, you are.
The service that we expect.
Yeah, what you expect and what you get.
Yeah.
Order sirloin steak at Sizzlers and see how it goes. All right. We'll move on to the next one, the measure R Fandy.
Okay, this is a new business item that was added from the June meeting. I think at the request that the member of the public, Mr. Kozlowski, kind of an update in regards to Measure R. A little bit of background. In 2020, local ballot measure was placed on the ballot by at the direction of the council to extend the timeline for what was then an existing utility users tax of 3%. The Measure O at the time was due to expire on January 1st, 2023. And prior to that, there was previously a utility user tax that was in essence, it didn't have an expiration date, but was discontinued for kind of unknown reasons. And so it was reestablished as Measure O.
Well, I know the reasons on that, and basically it was felt that the city was, in a really good financial condition. The council didn't feel that, we needed to keep it, we thought we could reenact it at any time we wanted, seeing how it was a measure that was passed by the voters. When we decided we needed it again, we were advised by our city attorney at that time that, it has expired, and in fact, by not using it, we relinquished it back. That's why we came up with Measure O. But that's other one was 4.5%, and that was on the book for years, on the books for years. So, okay. So
And it might have been due to the subsequent passage of Prop 218 that may have triggered that change, but Measure O was adopted in 2014, and we had roughly about a 9-year period before it expired. Again, the intent was to renew it. And the way the ballot measure was written was to maintain important city services, including repairing potholes, installing power backup systems for PG&E power shutdowns, responding to natural disasters and health emergencies, maintaining rapid 911 response, supporting, and that's again response. That means the police department, supporting youth teen programs and other city services for the use of the revenues. Included in your packet, well, a couple of things. The measure does include establishment of an audit citizens oversight committee. The measure under the full text, it says that beginning in fiscal year 25-26 and every 5th year thereafter, the city council shall appoint a 3-member committee to review and report on the receipt of revenue and expenditure funds from the tax. These committee members shall be either residents or representative of Cloverdale businesses, and review the auditor's annual reports and the finance manager's reports. There is a provision regarding the annual audit. It's intended to be done as part of the city's annual financial audit, in which case the city's independent auditor will review the revenues and make sure that they are as stated in the city's budget. Also calls for an annual report. Included in the packet is a copy of the annual report for our last fiscal year 22-23. Again, the funds are intended to be used for all eligible public purposes. Our focus previously in Measure O and currently in Measure R has been to use those funds towards public safety, parks, and road improvements. I know some of the things we funded in the past included plaza improvements and other park improvements, additional officers in our police department. And what's highlighted is in Measure R report is some of those expenditures that justify the amount collected. One thing to note is the amount of revenue collected for 22-23, which totaled $569,000, did include a one-time payment of $91,000. So if you kind of subtract that, we're down at about 470 or 480, which is fairly consistent with the ballot measures forecast in terms of revenue. So there, I'll just pause there. Just do you have any questions regarding the utility user tax, the establishment of the oversight committee, how the numbers are reported in the annual audit, or the Measure R report that's included in the packet? And I want to acknowledge our finance director who prepared the Measure R report.
Just one quick question, David. You mentioned that, taking away the 91,000, we're back down to where we normally run at 480. What did we say in the Measure R about proposal? Did we say how much we anticipated running?
Estimated at 445,000.
So it's ahead of what we estimated. Okay.
And the report does break down the the UUT, as we call it in short, utility user tax revenues by type. Approximately 317,000 was from electricity, 127, almost 128,000 was from gas. Approximately 65 was cable. And then there's wireless and wired telecom at about 30,000 each for a total of 60,000.
Yeah, and what this report doesn't show is that cable, wireless, and wired telecom all are on a slight decrease, and gas and electric are at an increase.
And that's attributed to the PG&E constant rate increases pretty much.
That and I think that the additional 91,000, the audit that they did found, I think they found it in one of the gas.
Actually.
Yeah, just, is there a similar report for the previous 2 years, Susie, or?
It just,
And are there gonna be those reports going forward for each year?
there absolutely will be reports going forward. I think it was a function of the change in timing with Measure O getting adopted, or Measure R getting adopted in November of 2020, and the way the revenues it didn't take effect. I mean, basically, and there was a changeover from Measure O to Measure R. So
This was the first full year that we received revenue. So we didn't go back and try to recreate one for 21, 22, and honestly.
okay, yeah.
But going forward, yes, and in fact, that's part of the stipulation that the oversight board would be reviewing
And
this.
what we have to say with 25, 26, we'll have to have all that anyways. So.
Yeah.
Good to know.
The other thing,
By June of next year, or prior to June of next year, the council will be asked to appoint that 3-member committee.
also, since this, when you went from O to R, it went from, you have to justify renewing it to, it's now permanent and sunset provision. Priorities could change as you go forward, and this maybe goes to 400, 500, 600,000. With priorities changing, are you looking at, with a 2-year budget cycle now, looking at what you would be spending it on for the next 2 years and then the next 2 years after that, in line with what the stated resolution was from whatever, 2020? That makes sense?
It does, and it absolutely is part of the budget conversation.
Okay.
And the public is open to you to come in and point in the direction that you would want as well.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, there's actually in the budget, under the revenue section, the utility user tax is broken out. So you can see specifically what the budget provides for in terms of a forecast. Well, for the current fiscal year as well as the next fiscal year. So the numbers available.
On the website.
It's in our transparency portal,
Thank you.
along with property taxes and other revenues.
So this brings me back to the other thing. First of all, thanks Susie for the report. Very informative. One of the things I kicked around or suggested in the past was, what if you cut R by 1% and then use that as a rationale to justify a sales tax increase?
So how does that help us gain money?
Quite a bit.
Yeah, no.
With the rise in PG&E rates and other things, I suspect that's going to keep going up. Also, if you do a sales tax, the way it's written, you're getting sales tax from people that visit, not just on Cloverdale residents' utility bills. And for example, I bought a brand new vehicle after my old one for 13 years had died. So it was a Toyota Highlander, so we could tow around 5 grandkids. And that, I don't know where that 4,200 in sales tax went. If that sales tax was in place, it would not have come back to us, because I thought the vehicle would happen.
So the answer to that is no, 3/4 cent of that sales tax would have been more on top of that 4,200 to come to us.
Okay, so they took the total sales tax and a portion of that, right? So that's citing zero.
And as I understand it, for us to do that, to take 1% out of this, we'd have to repeal this one through the voters and put another one on
But
ballot.
then how did they lower the sales tax? Was it Measure P cannabis? I heard that, for example, the county, they cut it.
No, that was approved on a
Yeah.
sliding scale.
We have a
Oh.
right as a council to adjust
Okay.
that.
So there was, ours is, yeah, okay. Fair.
Yeah,
Understand.
the city's allowed up to 10%.
Right.
They started at 4.5 and they backed off a little bit. And theoretically, they can go up 10% if they voted.
Thanks.
Good?
Good, keep the reports coming. By the way, is there still a report from Measure P, or should I wait till that comes up?
Wait till that one comes up. We'll be there in 2-3 more. All right, sales tax ordinance.
All right, included in your packet is a draft agenda report prepared by our city attorney regarding the direction provided by council to bring back a proposed ballot measure for a district tax that would be a 3/4 sales tax applicable to taxable sales within the city of Cloverdale. How it would be brought back is in terms of a resolution that council would review and ultimately, if decided, and supports it, placed on the ballot. The question that's being proposed as part of the tax measure is as follows. Again, just as a reminder, the Register of Voters has established a word limit on the ballot measure. It's 75 words or less. And currently, the ballot question is to fund street and sidewalk repair and maintenance, improve public safety infrastructure, enhance park facilities and open spaces, and for general government use. Shall an ordinance be adopted establishing a 3/4 cent sales tax until ended by voters, providing approximately 1.6 million annually in locally controlled funding that cannot be taken by the state or county with independent citizen oversight and annual audits. Our presumption is that council would like to include in the ordinance both that the revenues be accounted for in the annual audit, which we think would be a pretty standard practice, as well as the establishment of an independent citizens oversight committee, and I think this could be addressed so that committee is responsible for looking at both the sales tax revenue and the UUT, so you don't have to establish 2 separate committees, but that would be in the direction of council. Again, kind of the key policy questions, so again, is the direction was a 3/4 of 1% or 0.75. Council obviously has the discretion if you want to make that change before you bring it to the voters. And then just your concurrence on the annual audit, which the language is there's draft language provided for in the packet, and the citizens oversight committee. So again, the draft ordinance does provide for citizen oversight as well as the annual audit. And it sets forth the tax rate that was recommended by council. So just wanted to bring it forward to if there was any fine tuning that you'd like us to do before we bring it forward. Our current plan is to put this on the council agenda on July 24th.
How many words? And do we have room there?
I think we have room for a couple words. Let
Well,
me,
you had mentioned something under local control. back towards the beginning.
Yes, the kind of in the latter part of the question, providing approximately 1.6 million annually in locally controlled funding that cannot be taken by the state or county with independent citizen oversight and required annual audits.
Okay, independent oversight, I'm just thinking of those words, I just want them to know that it's gonna be Cloverdalians, it's not gonna be outside of the city, it's gonna be individuals. that are-
So you could say just citizen oversight instead of independent citizen, does that sound better? Like you said, annually in local control funding that cannot be taken by the state or county with citizen oversight instead of independent citizen oversight. Or not,
Yeah, I kind of,
Cloverdale and citizen oversight.
well, I kind of like the idea that, I just want to make sure that everyone knows that it's not gonna be,
I think I'm not too.
it's not gonna be a couple council members sitting down beside it, it's gonna be, civilian or however you said that, I think it would be good.
There is language in the Measure R, or within our current community code, that, let's read it here. Either a resident or business owner. Yeah, this is, the committee member shall be either Cloverdale residents or representative of Cloverdale businesses.
And that was in the actual ballot initiative.
That's in the muni code for the utility user tax. So we could use that language if that's preferable, or limited to say the committee member shall be Cloverdale
What
residents.
about instead of citizen, we say resident oversight?
Cloverdale residents.
We just gotta make sure that nobody thinks it's gonna be you and Kevin and, the mayor.
Right.
Spending things.
This, I mean, the title is citizens oversight, but the actual language says either Cloverdale residents or representatives of Cloverdale businesses.
But that's for the utility tax, right?
That is for the
Yes.
utility user tax.
Oh, but if we're gonna combine the two,
That you want maybe some consistency. I think just for reference, when we brought the appointment of the oversight committee for Measure O, the three members that were appointed were Mike from Papa's Pizza, who was both a business owner and a resident, Nina Hinchet, director of the Chamber of Commerce, and Carol Giovanetti, Arpagomi.
Yeah.
She was, who is a resident and very knowledgeable about local municipal finance. Yeah, no obligation to reappoint those, that was for Measure O, but those were the three members.
And the next part of I had a question is, when it says to fund street and sidewalk repair and maintenance, when is streets, if you had a sewer line, sewer lateral, would that be covered under street repair and maintenance? Or what is the definition of streets? Does that mean that it's just the asphalt, or does that mean the infrastructure for? I want to make sure that we cover that in case somebody questions that. I don't know if does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think
I
that
think
makes
this
sense.
does, but
Yeah.
I don't want to get caught and they'll say, oh, no, you can only pay for the asphalt portion, you can't pay to fix the pipes.
But look, we know when we hit certain sections, the town and Digway, that's a whole week.
Oh, the transit pipe through there, you know what you're going to get.
So at what point does it go to the water sewer silo, or does it stay within the, sales tax collection?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, because my water meter's smack dab in the middle of the sidewalk.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to do one without the other, so, I mean, Chair and Caution, I mean, we wanna look at that language and make it be more inclusive, though it does provide for, general government use.
Absolutely. I was hoping, I don't want it to be questionable, and I want people to really know that we're not, doing other things outside of what we're saying here. We're not trying to get anything by them.
And you could, yeah.
I don't want Rob at my meeting in public comment. You put a pipe out there, you need to take that out of this budget, not out of that one. That's what I don't. I want Rob to say, perfect job.
We added the term, maybe to funds, infrastructure, street and sidewalk repair. Now that, you have to, is someone gonna interpret that too broadly?
Right.
But if you add infrastructure,
As long as-
public infrastructure.
As long as, these meetings are recorded, we know that when we say street and sidewalk repair and maintenance, that you're maintaining what the street is on as well. And it's completely recorded here. Everyone knows that there's no secrets. And I will make sure that I say it when we bring it up in the council meeting as well. I think it's clear. That one caught me for a second.
It'll probably depend on the budget too, right?
Absolutely.
And who has money and who doesn't,
Right.
how much it actually brings in, how much can you move set aside for the budget?
Yep.
And can you get Subcommittee for?
Water and wastewater, pointing fingers like, take it out of his budget.
Yeah.
Or I want,
Yeah.
I want this one.
Well, the good news is, once we get our arms around it, once the common is completely done, I can't even imagine how many years that'll take. But hopefully it'll be kept up, and we won't have the major expenses that we have going into this project.
And I count, there's about 63 or 64, it depends whether we count the dollar sign and the number, or is the number sign and dollar sign the same. So I'd have to seek, city attorneys.
Looks like he has it at 61 on your screen. So on the bottom left, 61 words.
Right, that's probably a word count, but
It's symbols too.
that's what I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That would leave some opportunity for a few additional.
Right.
Bullets and
Short is better.
And
no question.
it says required annual audits. So the other one is being done on a 5-year. Right? For the start of 25, 26 and 5 years thereafter, every 5 years.
The citizens oversight.
Correct. So do we want, this one's, you have it as annual. Do you want annual or do you want, I'm just saying, if you're trying to make the same committee, they're doing one every 5 years. Do we want this one every 5 years or do we want it every year?
Yeah, so I think the language now says annually, we shall retain an independent audit, but then the citizen oversight committee, only has to do it every 5 years.
Okay.
That's why I just asked, if you do an annual report, that's, that'll be posted and that's.
So it will be audited every year, but just the oversight committee.
Even if there's an internal audit, that's, Susan, the internal auditor, right?
Our auditor also looks at all of the revenues that. Mhm.
Gus, is there anything else on this? Theo, do you want to read it again? Looks like Mike's been changing words throughout, just to see if, I think the only part that he changed actually is the word, the last portion, the citizen Cloverdale part. Can you see if it matches what Gus was wanting?
So the current proposed ballot question is to be presented to the voters again in the November presidential election, is whether to vote yes or no to fund on a sales tax to fund street and sidewalk repair and maintenance
Sure.
to improve public safety infrastructure, enhance park facilities and open spaces, and for general government use, shall an ordinance be adopted establishing a 3/4 cent sales tax until ended by voters, for providing approximately 1.6 million annually in locally controlled funding that cannot be taken by the state or county with Cloverdale resident oversight and required annual audits.
Yeah, and I think that general government use, that covers virtually any issues.
If you have an emergency, something that happens, it helps with those little.
Well, even if someone complains that it's sewer, not the street that's getting repaired, it's covered there too.
I just don't want people to think that we're trying to sneak something in. You know what I mean? I really want people to know this is. We're looking to do the roads, and this is the way to do it. We have to pay for it. And we're looking to take care of our open spaces and our parks, you know, and health, public safety. It's not about paying anyone's salaries that's not listed to helping doing these projects. It's not about us doing special projects.
Well, that's why I think it's really important that if we're successful in this passage, that we structure a resolution in such a way that the community knows that there's going to be 3 silos we set up. One is for streets, one is for parks, and one is going to be for community service. And my vision is 2/3 goes towards the streets, which would be about $1 million. 1/6 goes towards the public parks, and 1/6 goes towards community services, which would be helping fund the senior center, the food pantry, the chamber. But those would be the silos, and those would be the only things that we could spend that money on unless we do a change to the resolution.
And we
So we can't go out and buy new drones or quads for the police department. I mean, it's gotta be for what those silos, how we've structured.
can we do that?
Well, we
I-
did
I-
like that.
I don't know if we can structure it that way without making this a special tax.
No,
Or are you saying afterwards?
after,
Oh,
after.
okay.
Is that right, David?
I think that's correct, Councilmember Walter. If, after, assuming it passes, we get to 50+1, council can direct staff to prepare an expenditure plan.
Okay.
That could outline, that could be adopted by resolution, outlining, specifically how you'd like to see those funds be allocated. Because again, you know, part of it is, we're forecasting 1.6. You know, that's our best guess based on independent analysis, but you know, that would be something we'll have to, you know, so your direction, Councilmember, about percentages, you know, could be flexible enough to deal with the changing amount of revenue.
That's what I asked about Measure R, since you're on the 2-year budget cycle. What do you foresee spending the next, say, 2 years on the Measure R funds? Are they in line with what you want to do for the sales tax, or are they in line with some other priorities? Or does that come up when you do the budget for next year?
I think it should.
Yes.
I mean, it would be nice to say to the chamber that you're gonna get, you know, you're gonna get 1/6 of what we collect on that sales tax. Well, not 1/6, but you'll share that, maybe you'll get 10% of it. Maybe the senior center and the food pantry would get 5 or 10%, depending on what it is. Because, you know, the senior center and the chamber, they're extensions of the city. You know, they provide services to the community that we can. And it sure would be nice to let them know that they've got a revenue stream coming in every year, so they can budget accordingly. But like I said, that's a deeper conversation once it's passed.
I don't disagree. Not at all. I like it. I think that's a great idea. At least the people can have an idea of what's coming and where it's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the reality is that, given the extent of our budget, deficit, that it, you know, would typically is necessary to do to address the needed reductions to ensure we don't drain our fund balance is cuts, and cuts can come in, you know, any form as directed by council. But typically what's put on the list for cuts are, you know, any discretionary funding, which might go, which often is your service organizations, as important as they are. You know, they're asked to kind of share in the pain. And so we know how vital that funding is to them, but that's often, you know, absent turning off streetlights and other drastic measures. That's often one of the items that is required to take a cut, but again, that's council's decision.
I think you did a good job. Anything else, Gus?
Nothing, I'm good.
Can you say one question on the red line version, or the, I guess the yellow line version? There was a blank space at the end with regards to, was it in reference to an expiration date for the sales tax measure, or I wasn't quite sure what the purpose of what that was.
Yeah, that's, it's just, I mean, it's currently written, it's until repealed by voters of the city of Cloverdale.
Yeah, I saw that up on the top, but then at the
Yeah.
very end of the yellow line version, there's just a blank space, right?
Yeah.
I think it's to put in a date, so if it was repealed, that's the date.
Oh, okay. But absent a repeal, it would just continue, yeah.
Okay, everyone good?
Just an interesting thought, this was on what, 2020, we went through Measure R, for example, and this is just like Measure R, you're asking the voters, and the Press Democrat wrote something interesting, they said the word permanent, it never appeared on the ballot or in the analysis written by the city's attorneys. Gentlemen, we saw that today. Instead, the ballot says these taxes will stay in effect until they are repealed by the voters. That's true so far as it goes, but consider the difference. A temporary tax comes up on schedule for renewal, requiring cities or the county to justify an extension. These kinds don't come up for renewal. They're permanent, they never sunset. So that's one of the things that gets a lot of voters alarmed because the Measure R barely passed 53% to 47% back in 2020. So a lot of the wording by the attorneys doesn't make it clear that it's permanent. So you may get some more feedback from the Press Democrat and other sources about it being this is a permanent tax you're proposing.
Well, I don't use the term permanent because I don't think there's much in the way of permanency, but,
It's not gonna end after 5 years.
there's no defined sunset. And, you know, I think there's a strategy there because ultimately to put measures back on the ballot, there's an expense and, you know, if there is a strong desire to repeal or to eliminate or modify council, well, of course, citizens always have the right to do it.
Well, not if you follow Governor Newsom's just in the process of doing, he shut down use the Supreme Court.
We're in Cloverdale now.
No, that citizens can't challenge things.
Well, that was
That's awful.
Yeah.
that was a, I don't want
No, I don't want to.
Supreme
I'm
Court,
just saying, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
You've got a lot
There
of
was-
skeptical.
there was some nuance there where can a measure be put before the voters that overrides the state constitution? And that's where the Supreme Court said no, that requires the state legislature to act in the 2/3 capacity to change the constitution.
That isn't quite right, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. That's a different.
Right.
Yeah. I need a beer for that one.
It's the wrong date again.
Exactly.
But we never know, I mean, you know, we need these new streams of cash coming into the city because everything is going up, you know, with inflation. How much has the state clawed back this year from us? Wasn't it something like 50,000 for one thing in particular they took back? Or was it for the 6 acres?
Well, we haven't got reimbursed from the state for our time spent on the providing water service to city takers.
For the last 10 years.
Right, and you know, where we see clawbacks is in the form of grants. We were expecting to receive 500,000 for our recycled water feasibility study. You know, they reduced the funding to 300,000. So, you know, by 40%, it's a 40% reduction in their promise. And that's, I think, where you see the clawback. Of course, the state, like they did with redevelopment, they can change the laws and they could take other revenue from us that they don't currently, if we were to get in that kind of a situation where they need additional revenue.
So they're clawing back all the money you get from the road taxes,
Well,
from what I understand from Susie's numbers.
well, the point is, we never know what we're gonna get taken away from us from one year to the next. It's nice to have something that we know is gonna be coming in because we control it 100%.
Right, no, I'm not disagreeing with it, I'm just saying a lot of voters don't like taxes with no sign.
No, that's all, yeah.
Rescind.
Then the other part of that would be, you know, all the conversations I've been having, in all these little groups that people want to meet and talk. They're always like, why don't you do a quarter stint? And then do another one in 2 years, and then do another, and I'm like, well, could you imagine us doing that? Every 2 years, you'd have something on the ballot. There was
And
a
you'd be
new
thinking to
tax, a
yourself,
new
oh,
tax, a new tax, and people would be like, what the? It's gonna be 17
This
cents.
fall, for example, I thought there was 5 taxes, or actually 7 taxes minus 1, assuming you're not pushing for a property tax here. Okay, so then there's 6 taxes. The other 2 that are added, there's a second state bond beside a climate bond, now just added a school bond, which will likely pass because people like that.
Yeah.
And then Sonoma County's adding a quarter-cent sales tax as well. That's the fund paying for childcare.
Be careful how things are worded versus what they are. I would just say that.
Yeah, that's
Really read them and push for what they are truly for.
but it's like,
So. This is the only one that truly affects Cloverdale.
this is the only one that matters. That's what you're saying.
This is 100% what I'm saying. To us right here, this is the only one that matters. And we'll only one you'll see a difference in Cloverdale. Other than look for the worst. All right. Good to go? All right, move on to the update on Measure P, like any cannabis reports.
Yeah, so included in your packet is, again, the most recent Measure P report showing the excise tax that was deposited with the city. This did not include the month of June because they had until technically until Sunday to make those payments, and so we didn't have time today to find, I mean, the report was that's included in your packet was finalized on Thursday last week, so next when this meeting date falls so close to the payment date, the reports aren't always current, but this just reflects the amount of the excise tax that's collected. There's no report required. I think it's asked that earlier, but we do out of transparency provide these reports that show the amount collected on a monthly basis. But this doesn't reflect the amount of staff time that goes into working with our cannabis businesses, but that's part of the annual fee as well.
And there are still 2 businesses that are more than 3 months past due.
Same one.
Unfortunately, I think that we need to start a new process to pull licenses or do something different like do it anybody else's business, unfortunately.
What does, the city attorney say? Have we talking about this yet?
Yeah, there's a process in the ordinance. It becomes challenging because partial payments are made and not full payments.
Or they pay the most current amount. But don't pay but don't pay the past 2 months, so that there's no late, they've already.
How is that possible? Pay what you do now, but not pay what you owe us. It should be credited to the oldest bills moving forward.
Yeah, because the Measure P.
That's a dupe. You know, that is somebody playing a game.
Because there is a stiff penalty if you're if you're 1 month behind, there's a 25% penalty. So it is stiff. And then the second month, an additional. So after that, no, so 50%.
So once they got 2 months over, they don't care. They're gonna pay this one because then they won't get the penalty.
Yeah,
That's a shell game.
Because are you going to apply it to the oldest balance?
yes, yes.
I think our finance director has started doing that
Oh.
after it became an issue. It's not clear in the ordinance that it provides for that, because you remember the amount of taxes that are paid are based on gross revenue within that month, right? So then are you applying that balance paid to a previous month? So it starts to snowball.
No, I understand. I just don't see how, as a consumer, as a business, I would be in a position to say, oh, no, Susie, this money is not for the $8,000 I owed you from 3 months ago. It's for this month only. And I mean, I could say that, but obviously, like any other account, it gets applied to the oldest, portion, so.
Yeah,
but-
you're reporting it, giving me a check for that amount,
Yeah,
you know.
it goes towards the oldest balance. I think we need to make that clear and fix that if it's something's written. That's just, and I'm doing the math in here, and we're almost 55,000 short of last year. Is that accurate? So you're-
Mhm.
at 5 months, we're at 33,000. And so that's a lot less this year than the last year.
I'm sorry, what was it for?
So last year, we had a total of 132,000 come in for the year 2023.
Oh,
And if you do the math on what we've collected so far, it's only 33,000. And so that breaks us out to, it'll be about 80,000 that we'll receive total for the year. So that would put us 52,000 short from last year. Is there a reason for this? Is it because it was owed, or is it because
That's-
everything's down? I mean, I'm looking, it's hard to tell numbers with this, because it's so skewed with.
Everything's down and the fact that we're missing payments from the two.
So maybe Susie, could we report, because this shows actual collection, actual deposits.
Yes,
The companies, the cannabis businesses are submitting their measure P reports, so we know what's due.
they're not submitting,
Okay,
that's the problem. Yeah,
When do they start breaking the law with this? Because they have to report this.
today, for last month, right?
I know the answer, and I love that you do, that you're saying it, because of all the people that sit here and
It's
say.
one, it's due, whether you pay it or not is different. story.
And
Not
you're going
reporting
against what the
seems to
state
be-
is required. What state requires, you're against it if you're not reporting it.
right.
When do we start putting our foot down?
The minute the police chief leaves the room.
Yeah. Yeah, because when he leaves the room.
I think what we probably might want to do is bring back the ordinance and look at the language, because I think that's maybe where there is some ambiguity, and, you know, we developed the ordinance, you know, prior to actually, you know,
Right. Any experience?
any experience, and I think what it would benefit is kind of walking through it and seeking, the tough part is we can amend the council can amend the ordinance regulating cannabis. The ordinance that was enacted by the voters, we'll have to look at what discretion we have to amend that by way of council approval first, having to go back out to the voters.
I think we really need to, because now we've learned.
Yeah.
And it's time to update.
I've never
I
been,
mean,
Update and do, I don't know, I mean, I would say a feasibility study as well, that shows what it's costing us versus what we're getting, because we went from high to low. Where are we supposed to be? I don't want to lose money on their businesses either. We can't, not when we're in tough times, so. Does that make sense? Am I?
No, yeah, please.
Walter, anything?
No, I think we pretty much covered it, this is gonna be a nice source of revenue for the city and just like work out.
Okay.
You know, for businesses.
I said it here for.
Susie's matrix is good. It went from 2020, 500 to 400 to 200, just over 100. The amount now maybe 33 to another 100 this year.
Yeah.
This is-
If you take those 5 months and you divide it by 5, where we've got paid, and then you multiply that by 12, it comes up to 80,000 basically. And that's why I looked, I'm like, there's no high and low months that like I'm missing something, you know, it doesn't spike up in December, you know, at least on the total.
Look, there are natural pressures in the business, absolutely, but obviously year over year, it's February, and there's a 20% increase, there's a reason. And obviously, if people are earning and not reporting and are paying, that's one problem. And then there's clearly a lull in the market. I mean, you know, I got in the mail, the DCC just came out with their little thing that shows that they're saying 60% of the cannabis sold in this state are sold illegal. 66%, we're talking 2016, 8 years later, it's still at 2/3 illegal. And unfortunately, the state solution has come up with a new sticker that says real that you put on your products, even though that this is real cannabis product license.
Yeah, that's gonna help.
Yeah, and plus they raised the taxes, so that also helps, doesn't it?
And you have to pay for the sticker.
No one pays for the sticker, but that's gonna justify their coming up with a number. Absolutely.
Move on to the water rate revenue tracking worksheet.
Again, this is a monthly report that's updated and included in your packet. It's updated through the end of May. We didn't have the data for the end of June yet, but the next month's report will include June. As of right now, we're up on a year-on-year basis of 128,000. That's just for perspective, that's fairly enough to cover the additional costs of chlorine.
Use water, as much as you can.
Yeah, that's what you told me last year, Todd.
I'll tell you that, I'll tell you that anytime. I'll tell you that anytime. I might get kicked back, but I'll tell you that anytime. We have plenty of both of them. All right, moving on, sorry. That's on recording line too, that's not good. Update for grants, grant writing, investments, options and tracking.
The tracking worksheets included in your packet. It's just that staff continues to monitor grant opportunities and include those on our tracking worksheet and update that as RFPs or proposals or grants are identified or brought to our attention.
Love this, thank you. Okay, moving on, next is the R3C. Is there anything?
Well, real quick, Mayor,
sorry.
under Director,
I'm
sorry, this is an opportunity for our finance director, if there's any updates. That he may not have any, it's an opportunity. If there's any-
I don't have any.
So moving to admin, Mayor, the Russian River Reuse Collaborative. Staff has been continuing to monitor this process. Council did approve the memorandum of agreement with the town of Windsor for development of the biosolids recovery facility, and that was an initiative that came out of this Russian River Reuse Collaborative to establish kind of a regional perspective on addressing reuse of particularly recycled water and also biosolids within Sonoma County.
Thank you. Code enforcement activities,
No update.
perfect. Telling proclamation determinations, we don't need that on there anymore.
This is just, if there was, this is a standing item that if we received any requests for proclamations, that we would place them on the agenda for the review by the finance and police subcommittee.
So,
No request for receipt for proclamations.
Is the mayor going to start doing letters of appreciation to individuals as opposed to proclamations?
can you get it?
Well, I just think, I think I mentioned to you before, but
Right.
we have Brandon and, who was the other, Cody? I think it was that got their.
Corey, yeah.
Corey, who got their water license, Bob Cox and,
Now they'll sit it on that one. We did.
yeah, and for the cemetery, the work they do, Bob Cox for the downtown banners along with Craig Johnson. I mean, it'd be nice if we just said, hey, here's a letter of thanks, and
Nope, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the roles of the mayor, is anytime he wants to acknowledge a member of our community, we can just let us know and we can add those to the agenda with like a certificate of appreciation.
I will make more of an effort for that because I think it's a great idea. If you have anything or anyone you want, please let me know.
Yeah, well, that's the idea. Council members should be able to feed names to you and you talk about it. And, you know, I mean, the proclamations became a nightmare. Who do we proclaim, who don't, and who wants it, who doesn't. So at least this way, it's just from you.
Right. I like that.
And Mayor, we were also hoping to use that section for, like David mentioned, new proclamations, which he said we haven't received any. I also like to look at the past year and see if you want to go forward with them. Last time we had Disability Pride Month in July, as well as National Night Out. Would you like to continue those this year?
Yeah, same ones that we already made the list during our budget session, correct, and approved it through our council. So. All right, chief.
Where do I begin? I'll keep it short. Next council meeting, you're gonna see a contract come up for parking citations. Sonoma County is no longer processing our parking citations. So we have to have an outside agency do it, so you'll see that. Come up.
Why aren't they doing it anymore? Because
They just decided not to do it anymore. They're relocating the supervisor for that oversaw that to another department. And just like with our warrants, they said, man, we're not gonna do positive warrants anymore, for whatever reason. I'm sure they have a good reason.
They provided a letter of like that they were gonna discontinue providing that support to all the cities. And they were so kind to say, here's a firm that you could use to provide that service, but it didn't state the basis as to why they were discontinued.
all I have to say right now.
Yeah, you can get me started. The other thing you're gonna see is our animal control contract is up. So they gave us a proposal for a 3-year, 5-year, and a 10-year extension. Obviously the 10-year is cheaper. I'd rather think about 10 years. We got a 5-year, which I'm gonna bring that information to you.
Any preference? This by the subcommittees, 1, 3, 5, or 10?
I'm sorry?
1, 3, 5, or 10?
It's one, I'm sorry, 1, 5, or 10.
1, 5.
What are we on now?
We started in 2018, so, it's fine. It's all right. 10 years is a long time to be stuck in a contract. Make 5-year, it's fair. I agree. People will change, things will change. Retirement will happen.
I can still be here.
Okay, so we did hire a reserve officer, police reserve officer. She is an FTO. This is her second week in FTO. And her name is Samantha Bonham. She came out of the Weed Academy in Siskiyou County. She did her level 3, level 2. She has a level 3 and level 2 cert, and is going to work to get her level 1 cert. The training we just hired, he starts the academy July 22nd. He comes on board, starts with us July 8th to go to orientation phase, and then he'll transition into as training the academy.
Is he a Cloverdale?
Yes, he actually works at Public Pizza
Oh, okay.
and lives in. Also, we're going to be looking at replacing a couple of vehicles. We put in funds to replace some older vehicles. Right now, I'm holding off on some maintenance to the vehicles. Some vehicles, they're just really expensive. So we don't want to put any money into the stuff we're going to get rid of. And we're attracting some equipment over to the new cars, and then hopefully it won't take us a year to get them. And when they're no longer in stock, you have to order them and they're made to order. And so you get in this queue, and like with our Dodges that took almost a year to get, you put in the request with the auto location that has the contract. And then once the queue opens up, then they put your order in, and then it gets scheduled to be built, and then it gets shipped. So we are looking at different avenues, getting it faster. We did find a place in Pennsylvania that has an in stock. You order what you want on it. They have the parts in stock. They build it and ship it in 8 weeks. So, so we're waiting that along with the locals. So we'll have that to you guys as well.
What are we leaning towards? I know we were in SUVs for a while, then we got out of those. What are we looking at now?
Yeah, so they don't make the Dodges anymore, the Dodge Chargers. Well, they do, but they're electric. So we're gonna go with a Dodge Durango. It's a little bigger car. And then I needed some additional thing to get up with our new open space. Needed a 4x4 vehicle. We don't have any 4x4s in our fleet. And so we're looking at a Chevy Silverado that would help us get up in the open space, especially the one over behind City Park.
Is that money coming out of our, I'm sorry?
In fact, yes.
No, out of our,
There's a big word, doesn't.
Yeah.
Budget.
Yes, vehicle count outlet.
yeah, is that where it's coming out of?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's where it's budgeted, it's,
It has to be.
it's both.
Oh.
The fund, the source of the revenue is impact.
So it's not a special budget item. We've already been saving one.
These, both the purchase of the vehicles as well as the animal contract services. And ultimately, enter into a contract for the parking citations, all of those items will need to come for council for approval.
Chief, if you've seen the new contract with animal control and I guess it's the citations for parking, are they all going to be an additional cost with what we've been paying to the county, what we've been paying to animal control?
Yeah, so we don't do a lot of parking sites. So, and I haven't run the numbers, but yeah, I'm not happy with the current people, contractor or the guy that provided me with a bid. And how, if I call you and I say, hey, I want a bid for your service, you better get back to me. I don't have to search for you and call you again. I'm not happy with them, so I'll wait for another bid to come in. I don't know what their numbers are yet, but they're responsive to the questions and things. So, but the current one is it's $300 a month for their services, and they take. Then there's fees associated. You do the parking citation. They do hearings and things. So that it all depends on what happens with the parking ticket. That sent out a letter. It's sense, but you know. So I haven't done the numbers on how many citations we get and what those charges are for those specific citations. What the normal is. With that out, you know, if we got 10 parking sites at $50 each, that would, you know, cover the monthly fee, but, so I haven't done those numbers yet, but I'll have that in the report. What it would look like, if there was any additional charge to the city, or would it just be kind of neutral?
Then on the animal control contract services, as I understand it, chief, the proposal was to increase it by, you know, CPI.
Yeah, so that's a 9% increase for the 5-year. Sorry, and then the 10-year will be a 12% increase. And so we currently pay $2,666 per month. And then it would go to $2,900 for 5 years. And I'll have the stats for you in the report, and so you guys can look at it. You know, what did they provide to us for those services?
And I know that I probably know the answer to this. However, hiring a new CSO and having this as part of the duties is it's better to go this route than wait the next CSO.
Yeah, so, in particular with dog bites and things, you have to do it right. Quarantine dogs and investigating the dog complaints. They have a little more, their expertise is much more in that area. And they can respond to those things better than, our person who does it every once in a while, you just don't want to screw those up, especially if the kid gets bit or something. And they just have the, the updated knowledge, resources to remove dogs. They've gone to homes and removed dogs before. The guy in the truck, we had all the chihuahuas.
Yep.
They dealt with all that. I just kind of sent them with the fervor to deal with the guys with dogs off leash, but they respond to those things and it frees us up from doing that.
They can also find the snake wrangler. We had a snake removed from our garage. Last time I got in, and the guy did a great job. Drives up in the Prius. He's got buckets full of rattlesnakes in his back. He's here, let me show you the big ones.
Oh, my God.
It's a great service. Yeah. It's the county, though. The county.
It's North Bay.
Yeah. Okay.
What's he do with them, bring them up to the?
They have a rattlesnake field somewhere. They let some loose somewhere. I'm not sure where in the county that is. Sure, it's in the county. But he was like a crazy guy.
Yeah,
And no charges to you, Rob?
No, not a penny, so I assume that's part of it.
yeah, I think they responded to get a cat out of a drain or by your house.
Yeah.
They do things like that all the time. It's great. All hours of the night.
All right, we'll move on to future agenda items, cannabis ad hoc meeting.
We put this on, we've had a request from, some of the cannabis providers to, hold another ad hoc meeting. I think what we heard is there's interest in, looking at the ordinance regarding cannabis, to establish, on-site consumption, which is currently prohibited. And, discuss other.
Like the wine tasting bar?
Yeah,
It's currently not provided for in our
Can you
location.
drive after you?
Yeah. Well, I won't speak to that.
Like the wine tasting,
I have to research. Generally, I don't know, we have a member of the business community here, maybe.
It is allowed for by the state, it has to be approved, there's a licensing process, and it also needs to be approved on a local level. Currently, the ordinance prohibits consumption.
How about county?
I don't know about the county, I don't think, we're not subject to the county because we're within the city.
Right.
Now, I've observed that there has been consumption, events that have been previously put on, and I guess there's a way to get around the law, which is if you don't do it on the property, but if you do it on adjoining property, then at that point it's something different, but
well, I would want us to have our ducks in a row with the different taxes and things that we're doing and show our reports. And make sure that we have tax paying up to date and stuff before we discuss giving more, unfortunately. I know it hurts the ones that do pay all the time. However, I don't think it's very prudent of us to do that. And if I'm wrong, Gus,
No,
speak up.
I agree.
The next item, I think this was requested by Councilmember Walter, is a vacant property ordinance, and our assistant city manager, community development director, has prepared a draft ordinance. He's still working with our city attorney, the draft ordinance, and I think we'll be prepared to bring that forward next month.
Great, thank you.
Is that in line with the thing we're reading about the Matson properties or person bought properties and basically hasn't been taking care of them? Is that a vacant ordinances?
It's kind of related to, for the city of Cloverdale, this would apply to, the council can direct which geographic area would apply in, but I think the focus has been in large part in our downtown where we have, a vacant, commercial businesses. In that there's an assessment that's charged to, address the lack of business in that space. And it's a kind of a business registration. And it helps to track the intended use of the property, ultimately to try to support tax and generating activity, not just because of taxes, but also to create the livelihood that we want to see in our downtown community.
For example, you across the street, you have the bank, you close bank, that's been like that for years. Canton Restaurant, same thing.
Yeah.
You know, you get somebody like, I forget his name now, the fellow that owns, the building where Tanya is.
Mhm.
In those storefronts. Now, there's somebody who puts some money into his buildings and he's trying to rent them out. But you know, when you have people that just are perfectly content because they've owned the buildings forever, and there's no property tax in essence of what they pay, it's blight to our downtown, and it's not good for them.
Right. Any other future agenda items? No one? Okay. You gonna go to the order? Fourth of July party, parade, are you in it?
I don't know, I'll either jump in your car or get a Bloody Mary and watch it.
Yeah, it's part two, then you know.
You going to Bloody Mary and then jump in the car with me?
That you want to see.
That's right. All right, guys, thank you so much.
Happy Canada Day for those who live.
There you go. Meeting adjourned to 51.
Yeah, okay, like, sure.